pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger roll, Atlantic. Fighters outside FB off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
Yikes, you bet, concur, folks. Let me know, can you hear me, John Galloway, NASASpaceflight here, doing the technical checks this morning, and can you see our video feed live, very rarely, from Vandenberg? This feed is coming at you from the whereabouts of Lompoc, California, and you can see a SpaceX Falcon 9 off in the distance over there. Let me know if you can hear and see me. Give me a 5x5. 5x5, loud and clear. We hear and see the image. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So we should be good to go for the stream we'll be covering here today. Thomas, do we got you on comms?
We do. How's it going, everybody?
Oh, pretty good here. Take it away, Thomas. You are clear to tell people what the heck's going on.
Absolutely. So we've got a very regular appearance on the stream from Jack Beyer, although this time he's actually out manning the camera at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Jack, do we have you on comms to say hi?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
We hear you loud and clear, guys. That's Jack out running the video camera today. We're also joined in the studio by Chris Gebhardt. He'll be doing some commentary. Chris, how are you?
Indeed, doing well. How's it going, Thomas?
It's going well. Always a good day when it's launch day. We've got Das running things back in the studio as well. And we've also got Michael Baylor, who's not on comms for the stream right now, but he is at the press site. He's going to be doing some photos and videos, so stay tuned for content from him as well. So the full NASA spaceflight team out in force today for a very rare launch from Vandenberg, California. This is the first Falcon 9 launch from Vandenberg in over a year. This mission launching the Sentinel-6 or the Sentinel-6A or the Sentinel-6 Michael something or other. There's like 3 different names for this satellite. Basically, a scientific satellite for a variety of agencies. There's NASA involved in this mission, NOAA, the European Space Agency, maybe even a 4th agency of some kind. Chris, what exactly is the Sentinel-6 mission look like?
Yeah, so it's a so this is what's known as a JSON continuity of service mission. So basically, it's a partnership between NASA, the National Oceanic Administration, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, more commonly known as NOAA, the European Space Agency, and the European Organization for the Exploitation of Meteorological Satellites, as well as the French Centre National CNES, basically for the French National Space Agency. And this is a satellite, it's an Earth observation satellite, and it will particularly be monitoring sea level height between 2020, now when it's being launched, and 2030. So an overall 10-year mission, and it will be joined about halfway through its life in 2025 by the Sentinel-6B satellite. So the Sentinel-6 mission is actually 2 satellites, 6A and 6B. 6A is launching today, and then 6B will launch in about 5 years from now. One of the other things that it'll also do in terms, or in addition rather, to monitoring sea level height, it will also collect high resolution temperature profiles, vertical temperature profiles of the ocean, and monitor that temperature change as well in Earth's atmosphere, the troposphere and the stratosphere. So it will also help with weather prediction models and how ocean currents and ocean temperatures as well can affect our climate and our localized weather patterns. So very important mission launching today in terms of climate change and climate research.
Absolutely, and the Sentinel-6A satellite will do this from a sun-synchronous orbit, which is why it is launching from Vandenberg Air Force Base today. The Vandenberg launch site used by both SpaceX, United Launch Alliance, also Northrop Grumman occasionally. Several launch providers use this site on the west coast of California, not the east coast and Florida, because you can launch straight south, and that is a great way to reach a bunch of polar orbits, including the sun-synchronous orbits that Sentinel-6A would be going to today. Of course, recently, SpaceX demonstrated that they can also reach those orbits from Cape Canaveral using the new polar launch corridor, and Jack's going to be mad at me for saying those words on stream. But today, SpaceX is launching from the more traditional Vandenberg Air Force Base launch site because SpaceX and other launch providers are looking to take advantage of both sites to sort of meet a rising need to reach those polar orbits. SpaceX is still planning to do polar launches from Cape Canaveral. In fact, they have the Transporter 1 mission later this year, one of their first dedicated SSO rideshare missions coming up. That will launch from Cape Canaveral, even though it is going to sun synchronous orbit. But this mission going to SSO will launch from Vandenberg, and it is launching from Space Launch Complex 4 East. The last launch to go from this launch complex was the RadarSat Constellation mission over a year ago, and
And
it has been a long stand down, but we are here for another launch. Jack, were you trying to say something there?
yeah, and RadarSat was also a return to launch site Falcon 9 launch, and RadarSat was completely, in classic Vandenberg fashion, completely fogged out. I mean, the remote cameras at the press site got fogged. Like, it was ridiculous.
That's a
So
lot of fog.
sure, yeah. So the fact that we have a nice clear day today, and we are looking directly at the pad, we see Falcon 9 vertical, we don't see a wall of miserable gray, is a real big treat. So daytime RTLS, this is going to be awesome.
It will indeed, and Jack, you'll be happy to know that a Stage 1 RP1 kerosene load has just closed out, and we are less than a minute away from the start of liquid oxygen loading onto the second stage.
Excellent, excellent. We're really looking forward to the first clear daytime RTLS from Vandenberg. This will be positively beautiful, and I cannot wait. I don't know if you can hear the excitement in my voice, but I think we're about 8 miles away from the pad, and I'm just absolutely giddy. Look at that! You can see it venting.
I was gonna say right
Wow.
on time, the T-minus 20-minute vent as that we like to see. Falcon 9 right
Always
on track
good.
for the fueling timeline, so excellent.
Always good. But yeah, I did want to pop in really quick, Thomas, and just yell at you for saying polar launch corridor. I mean, we're not even are we even 10 minutes into this live stream, and it's a Vandenberg live stream, and you're gonna come at me with polar launch corridor? Get out of here with that.
It's like
But
saying
but
"Eh" to
one
Jack.
so one thing that's actually really cool about this, because Vandenberg is known for its polar missions, but this is not a polar mission. Actually, this is a non-sun synchronous orbit. It's going into at an altitude of 1,336 kilometers, inclined only 66 degrees to the equator, not close to 90. So this is following an orbital path that will basically take it over the same point on Earth's surface every 9 days and 22 hours, as it tracks and goes over the various portions of Earth's atmosphere or of Earth's surface. And this is actually mirroring the Topex and Poseidon and Jason missions that this one is part of or a follow-on to in that regard. So so yeah, it's really cool because we do usually think of Vandenberg as being the polar launch site for the U.S., but it also does other high inclination orbits that are difficult or not possible to reach from Florida. A 66-degree inclination being a very difficult one to reach from Florida.
And hey, one of the other more recent Vandenberg launches was even an interplanetary mission. ULA launched the InSight Mars lander from Vandenberg, so you can do a
Fun
wide variety of things from Vandenberg, and it's super cool.
fun
Uh,
fact
J-
about Insight and Vandenberg, it was completely fogged out.
yeah.
All the
There
remote cameras at the launch site, all they got was fog. Everybody at the press site, all they got was fog. Not even an orange glow. Are you noticing a pattern here?
Dude, it reminds me. I went out there for ISAT too, since we're talking about environmental measuring and that sort of stuff. And Jack, you will never guess. I was near Harris Grade Road for ISAT 2, and guess what I saw?
Fog?
I was gonna make a mission patch that was literally just gray embroidery with nothing on it.
Now, I have a question here, Jack, because we're looking at Falcon 9 at Launch Complex 4 East, but just to the left of that, we see a nice tall, looks like a server structure of some kind. What launch complex are we also seeing in this frame?
That would be Slick 3. That is ULA's launch complex, formerly for Atlas. Now it'll be for for Vulcan.
Are there more Atlas V launches planned from Vandenberg before they switch to Vulcan completely? I think so,
Honestly,
right?
There are,
I think
yes.
I think there's a couple more, one or two, something like that. Chris,
Okay. So
There,
current
there,
Atlas
there,
pad plus future Vulcan operations.
Yeah, because they can't actually start a lot of the pad modifications for Vulcan here on the West Coast until the Atlas manifest flies itself out. They can do some of the work, but like reconfiguring the launch mounts and expanding the launch pad and everything because of Vulcan's bigger footprint at its base, they just literally can't do. So unlike the East Coast, where there'll be Vulcan and Atlas overlap in flights, there will be no such overlap at Vandenberg. It will be a hard cutover between the two.
And I wonder if that means that ULA will, on the East Coast, for missions that want to utilize the new Vulcan launcher but want to go to polar orbits before they finish phasing out Atlas on the West Coast, means that Vulcan could use that polar launch corridor, sorry, Jack, from Cape
No,
Canaveral.
actually, it's a great question, but the answer is no, because to use the Polar Launch Corridor in Florida, you have to have an automated flight
Oh, that's
termination
true.
system, and Vulcan will not have an automated flight termination
Initially, it won't
system
have it initially.
until the middle of the 2020s now. So,
Right.
both SLS and apparently Vulcan and Atlas and Delta IV have now been exempted from the Air Force's mandate or the Space Force's mandate that all vehicles beginning in 2021 have to have automated flight termination systems.
Right. So that's something that'll come in way down the line, so it might not, be relevant there. That's true. That's a good point. We had a couple super chats come in really quick that we should bring up. Rough Rider Show, regular on the stream. Thanks for tuning in. What is the next new booster launch after this one? So this launch is using a brand new Falcon 9 booster, Booster 63. In fact, this is the second newest because we've seen Booster 64 go through Vandenberg. But one of the newest Falcon 9s in the fleet getting its first flight today. Booster 64 was the first Falcon Heavy booster for the next Falcon Heavy flight, USSF 44, launching next year. So that would be the next new booster launch because all of the other new boosters have had their first flights so far. So this is the last new booster launch before the next Falcon Heavy mission, which is planned to have 3 brand new boosters for that U.S. Space Force mission.
Yeah, because interestingly enough, the CRS-21 mission, which will be launching the first Dragon 2 in configured in cargo only mode up to the space station on December 2nd, is using a booster that's flown 3 times already.
Yes.
So NASA is oddly jumping from only using a booster twice to never using it 3 times to using one for a 4th time.
And that makes sense
Yay!
though, because they have already approved flight proven boosters for crew missions even. So if they're going to do that, they're clearly comfortable with flying flight proven hardware.
Yeah,
Um, in
yeah.
fact, given some recent gas generator issues, they might even be more confident in flight proven engines and boosters. But
They
yeah,
they
so
may be,
clearly not so
yeah.
comfortable with that.
Yeah, they may be, and we know they had at least last year been willing to do a flight on a third a flight on a booster being used for the 3rd time. But some manifest shuffling and rearrangements in December of last year ended up swapping the boosters in the missions that they were actually assigned to there at the last minute, negating the 3rd reuse and getting us to next month with the 4th reuse for NASA. So definitely not a surprise, as you say.
We also have a new membership from someone named Stop Begging for Likes. Well, I don't think we were begging for likes, so I'm going to make sure we keep not begging for likes, but we appreciate the membership. Thanks for the support.
Hey, folks, there's a
Uh,
couple people watching right now. Maybe click the like button. Please, please click the like button. We really need you to click the like button.
uh, if you do have questions, put them into chat. And if you tag us with @NASASpaceflight, we'd love to go ahead and answer to those to you. We got about 13 minutes before launch here. I'm trying to think. What about fairing recovery? So we already mentioned that the first stage is going to return to launch site and land at landing zone 4, which is on the old site of Space Launch Complex 4 West, right next to the launch pad. But the fairings, there are no fairing recovery vessels on the West Coast. So, Chris, how are they managing that today?
Yeah, so before we answer that, the spacecraft Sentinel-6A has been placed on internal power and has been given its final go for launch from the teams. So everything proceeding on course for a liftoff here just a few seconds after 9:17 local, 7:17 UTC. But yeah, so the payload fairings will separate as normal, and they will parachute into the Pacific, where NRO where the West Coast recovery ship, the West Coast Dragon recovery ship, will go out and fetch them out of the water. That is how they are planning to recover them today. So still recovering the fairings, just not grabbing them out of the water. Or sorry,
Right.
just grabbing them out of the water, not grabbing them out
Right.
of the air. Yes.
Yeah. And because they have to do that because the 2 fairing recovery vessels with the big old nets are still on the East Coast, Gomez Tree and Gomez Chief, of course,
Yes.
supporting the bulk of the Falcon 9 launch cadence. And of course, the reason for the stage 1 recovery mandate as well, both drone ships are also on the East Coast. Just read the instructions, and of course, I still love you. So there's no drone ships actually on the West Coast right now, which means all missions from Vandenberg that want to recover the first stage have to do a return to launch site landing. I think it is probably safe to say that, given the polar launch corridor, any mission that needs to go to those highly inclined orbits that need sort of a polar azimuth, but can't take advantage of a return to launch site trajectory, either for launch mass reasons or orbit altitude reasons, will launch from Cape Canaveral so they can use a drone ship, and that includes the upcoming Transporter 1 mission. But if they can take advantage of a return to launch site profile, they would likely be able to launch those from Vandenberg, just because that helps alleviate some of the congestion on the East Coast, which is much busier because they go to a lot more orbits from there. And that's kind of how Spaces will take advantage of having 2 different launch sites for those orbits.
And it helps to do some of your polar missions from Florida when possible to keep your boosters all in the same location
Yes.
and not have to crisscross them across the country. It would be nice if they could simply launch it into a suborbital trajectory, land it back at Vandenberg. Plan for
I'm
Vandy
messing with
launch
focus.
next.
I'm messing with focus right now. Just heads up.
Okay, copy, Jack. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
Jack,
are
I got you on
getting
the side feed, and it looks pretty good right now. But just let me know if you're still dialing it in.
Still dialing. I mean, should I keep it how it is?
Stand by. Let me refresh that again.
I don't have my monitor up right now. I'm off my phone screen. Just looking at the what do you call it? Preview. So
It's weird. We don't have a reference for this because normally we just see walls of fog, so we're not sure
Yeah.
how it's supposed to look.
Thomas,
Which is
you're
Hey,
getting
I
you're
was
getting me back
happy
for
that we
all the
have a good
times.
view today, Jack. Come on.
You're getting me back for all the times I've talked smack about Ares 1X.
Well, as they work out the focus issues, we've got a couple of more questions here. Specifically, one from Miguel asking, "How far is the landing pad from the launch pad?" Which is a very good question here at Vandenberg. So, unlike the Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, where the landing zones are miles and miles and kilometers away from the launch pads, the landing pad at Vandenberg is 430 meters or 1,410 feet from the launch mount at the pad. So very, very close. So when we say return to launch site, this is as close as you get right now to literally coming back and landing at your launch pad.
It's the
So
coolest thing.
it really is. It really is. So like if Jack weren't so like this view that Jack has, if he weren't going to track the rocket, if he was just going to leave it steady right there, you'd see it come back and land almost exactly where it's standing right now, which
Yeah,
is pretty
from
cool.
our perspective, the landing pad is on the excuse me, on the other side of the rocket. Basically, if you look through the rocket, it's just on the other side of the launch pad from our perspective right now. Almost
It,
exactly 180 degrees or whatever number of degrees. I'm not a mathologist.
Jack, is this the setup where you can get the launch and the landing in the same camera framing on a remote camera? Isn't that possible from one of the spots out
Yes,
there?
and okay, so a little bit of inside baseball. Because of COVID, they limited the number of people available on base and of people available to do remotes. So normally you would be getting this view from me much closer from the press site, and we'd be able to see the launch pad, we'd be able to see the landing pad, and all that goodness. But because of COVID, Michael Baylor, who is at the press site right now and who did set remotes, we flipped a coin, as gentlemen and people do,
Nice.
and he won the coin flip. So he got to set remotes, and Michael was kind enough to set a remote camera for me. And what that camera is that exact shot you described, Das. It is a shot of liftoff and landing together. Hopefully, I will be able to capture both in the same frame and do a cool composite. But now that I've said it out loud, it probably will be botched in some way.
Sorry, Jack.
But worth a try, right? Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
I didn't mean to jinx it there. My bad.
No worries. But yes, this is that launch pad, arguably the most beautiful launch pad in the United States. But I don't know. Some of those Kodiak shots from like John Krause and whatnot and Brady were absolutely amazing. But I'm a Vandenberg guy. I don't know if you knew this.
Yeah. I
Quick
love
count.
Vandenberg. It's so
And
pretty out there. Go ahead, y'all.
Alrighty, we have crossed the 7-minute mark in our countdown. SpaceX confirming that engine chilldown has begun, thermally conditioning those Merlin engines for ignition here in about 6.5 minutes to go.
All right,
And
are we
everybody,
happy with this framing? Are we happy with this focus? Do you want me to tweak anything before we get real here?
Jack, I'm on the side feed, and I think it looks great. There's some haze. You're what 8-9 miles away, so we got a little bit of atmospheric haze, maybe some blowing dust and stuff like that. But I
Yep.
think it looks fantastic. Like if you were at,
Farmland,
yeah, go ahead.
farmland and ocean. That'll do it.
Yep. If you were out there, that's sort of what it looks like because you have these big, vast vistas, right? And you get the haze that comes in. You get the no marine layer right now. You get dust that's blowing because it's such a dry, dusty environment out there. It's absolutely beautiful, but this is what it looks like if you're out there. So
Yep, sure enough.
I love Vandenberg. Vandenberg is one of my favorite places to go. It's really tough to see a launch because most of the public viewing locations, you actually cannot see the rocket. If you were down on Ocean Drive, you're over in Lompoc, there's a big hill in the way, and you cannot
Yep.
actually see this launch pad. So, Jack, you've
You
gone
can
out halfway up a mountain so that you can get this view, right?
Oh, all the way up to the top of a mountain, like 6, 7,000 feet. I mean, and that drive is a very rough off-road drive, and it's exactly an hour and a half from the place where you meet to do remotes.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so that's typically you pick up remotes an hour and a half after launch. So that would require me, and I have done this. Mom and Dad, I know you're listening. I love you. Sorry, I have driven down. I have driven down that mountain in the middle of the night extremely fast in order to make it back in time for remote pickups,
Oh,
several
wow.
times. But you got to do what you got to do. I mean, anything to escape the fog when the fog hits. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, while I'm on the topic, hi, Mom and Dad. Thank you for all your support throughout the years. You guys are awesome. I would not be here today without you guys having my back. Thank you so much, you guys.
And a quick check there, really fast. You can see it looks like the feed we're getting from SpaceX is about 10 seconds behind our own timer there. So just know that if I have to switch back and forth between the official feed, which is what we've got now, and Jack's fantastic feed, which is this one, there will be a little bit of a time delay. So also, we are really light on bandwidth out there today, so we may lose Jack's feed at launch. It may end up looking like he's streaming on Instagram or something like that. But just be advised that is a situation we're aware of, and it's the same thing. You know, you got to have modems, you got to have data to get it done. But 4 minutes now, I'll be quiet.
All right,
Yeah, and
and
just to reiterate, I would I have a this is 300 millimeter lens. I would love to throw my 600 millimeter lens on this, but that is going to be for photos. But definitely, we'll be improving the setup here as we go, especially with everybody's support. So thank you to all our new members. Thank you to everybody that's been super chatting. Definitely looking to improve the setup. I mean, we even have a solution to the bandwidth problem. It just didn't arrive in time because USPS. But
Yeah, it's all
but
good.
you know, it's all good.
Jack, last question. There is no audio coming off this camera, correct?
I mean, the mic is activated and it should be picking up audio. I don't know what that will sound like, but it should have audio.
Okay, well, when we get there, I will actually pump that through, and we'll see what we get. But if it's something crazy, I'll cut it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I turned the gain down a bunch, so hopefully not a lot of wind noise. It's not very windy. Hopefully you get good rocket sound. I can clap if you want me to do a little test, but I know we're getting close here. 3 minutes.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
are. Let's just roll with it.
you can see
All
the
right.
strong back has retracted to its pre-launch position, clearly from Jack's stream.
Oh, did you lose it? The camera just did something.
I'm still seeing it. We can actually see the strong back retracting right now, so I hope we're still live.
Okay, I heard it make a shutter clicking kind of sound. I don't know why.
Yep, we still got it. It's good.
Yeah. That's cool. Look at that. You can see the strong back retracting to the initial position. It goes through a couple different retracts, right, Thomas? And that's the first one.
Yeah, so Chris, correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe at Vandenberg it's slightly different than the ones we see on the East Coast. On the East Coast, they only retract like 1.5 degrees. You can barely tell, and then it throws itself back at launch. I believe this one, you can see it's retracted much more than 1.5 degrees, but it'll still
Mhm.
throw back at launch, right?
It does not throw back the same way that the ones
No,
at
so it just
Kennedy
stays
do,
where it is right now.
because there's no need to turn the Vandenberg pad around as
That's
quickly,
true.
and the throwback maneuver at 39A
It
and 40 is designed to protect the TE.
You can see it in some of the remote shots. It just gets absolutely roasted every time
Mm.
by
Mhm.
the Falcon 9's exhaust, and it's you can even see some of the GSE lines will be like spewing fire as the residual blocks or whatever kerosene burns off. I'm not sure what would still be in those lines, but Maybe it's just the lines themselves getting roasted, but I didn't know that, Chris. Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, and all the vehicle at this point is completely closed out from fuel loading equipment at 90 seconds to go.
All
Do
right.
One
we
really
know?
quick question that we touched on earlier, and then we'll take more questions after the actual launch. But a question about why the booster lands on a pad and not a drone ship. SpaceX tries to do that when they can because it is just simply logistically easier to process a booster that's landed on a ground pad versus coordinating a drone ship and support vessels to go out and supported landing. So if the mission is going to a lower energy orbit, a low altitude orbit, and the payload is light enough that Falcon 9 can reserve enough fuel to return to the launch site and land, they will do that. And this is one of those such missions. Again, from Vandenberg specifically, you actually can't do drone ship missions anymore because the drone ships are all on the East Coast. So
And
that's why they've gone with return to launch site today.
Yeah. There's
and
45
one
seconds of
1 minute
air
to
count.
go.
Yep.
Just under a minute to go.
Yep.
This is exciting, Jack. This is going to be really cool, man. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
rolling out there with the camera and juggling
45
all the
seconds,
stuff to get
and
this
launch
done.
director is go for launch and landing.
All right.
No problem, Das. This is what I love to do. I'm just so happy we get another Vandenberg launch, another West Coast launch. I'll shut up now and we can all enjoy it.
All right.
T minus 15 seconds.
15 seconds just called out over the net. 8, 7, 6, 5. Engine
Here we
ignition
have-
called out over the net.
Nice.
And we have liftoff.
All right, and there goes the Falcon 9 from Slick 4E, breaking the Vandenberg drought. Falcon 9 is beginning to pitch downrange and head out onto the correct azimuth to take it to its proper 66-degree inclination orbit today.
Jack is busy, but Jack, that feed looks absolutely fantastic. Look at the track here, y'all. Look at that.
All right, power and telemetry are nominal as the call out, approaching a minute into the flight now. Max Q coming 61 seconds after liftoff, the moment of maximum stress on the vehicle.
That is the point where the increasing speed of the rocket and the decreasing atmospheric density reaches a point where the pressure on the vehicle is maximum, and you can see it going supersonic there.
Yes, indeed. Right, and right as you said supersonic, they called out supersonic over the net, Thomas. Perfect timing.
Look at this. The official feed is just bluer.
It's
Jack's
just blue.
feed. Look at that. Isn't that cool?
That is cool, actually. That is really cool. All right, and you can see the exhaust plume starting to expand now as Falcon 9 is climbing higher and higher into the atmosphere, about 15 kilometers now in altitude. Oh, a great view from the on. Look at that onboard view.
That's a gorgeous
Look
view.
at
You
the
can
shadow.
see the Vandenberg airfield right above the engine plume.
Yep.
Wow.
But look at the shadow that it's casting. That was really cool too.
Oh yeah.
The
That's
shadow
awesome.
that little exhaust plume did, yeah.
So coming up on a couple events in quick succession, we'll have main engine cutoff of the 9 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. We'll have stage separation where the upper and lower stages separate, and then MVAC ignition on the upper stage. Right after that, the first stage will perform a flip maneuver using its cold gas thrusters, fire 3 of its engines to perform a boost back burn, and head back towards landing zone 4 at Vandenberg. So stay tuned for that.
And that
There
flip
we have
around and
Miko.
boost back. Oh, there we go. Yes. Stage separation confirmed. They just called over the net. There we go.
Look at that stage 1
Wow.
flip maneuver as MVAC ignites.
All
This
right,
could
and
be a
stage 1
great view
boost
of
back
boost
is
back burn.
underway.
There
You
it
guys still have
goes.
my
Look
camera?
at that. Oh, SpaceX, why'd you switch the camera feed? That was so cool.
Jack, let's have a see here real quick. We are getting your feed, but we do not see the booster on it right
Alright.
now.
All right, and just real
I
quick,
can-
fairing
okay.
separation has been confirmed, and both vehicles are following nominal trajectories, is what SpaceX says. Oh, there goes the fairing. Look at that.
Yep.
Excellent.
remember, Jack is still standing by. This is an RTLS mission, so we should get that same view of the rocket coming back down.
I'm trying. I'm looking for it.
Yep.
And the boost back burn is complete according to SpaceX mission control.
All right, I've got eyes on it, but it's a speck in the. I can see RCS pulses, but I don't know if it'll be visible.
We're looking at your camera for a second here to see if we can see it anywhere.
It's not visible to me anymore.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna keep my eyes open for re-entry burn.
Yeah, keep your eye on the sky. Or re-entry burn is at what in the timeline, y'all? We're about 4 minutes in the timeline.
Should be about 7.5 minutes typically. That's just on a generic profile. I don't have the exact timeline in front of me. I'll check.
Good deal. Thank you.
But you
Jack,
can
we'll
see
try to
the
give you a heads up.
onboard camera there. RCS thrusters pulsing to keep the booster oriented properly, and the grid fins have deployed.
Entry
The
burn
entry
is
burn
6 minutes 55 seconds.
Yep, you
into
just
the
got
flight.
it. Beat me by a second.
So 6 minutes 55 seconds. T plus 6:55.
Yeah, that's when it is complete.
Good deal, Jack. So entry burn in 2 minutes. 2 minutes till entry burn.
Copy you. Did you guys get any sound from me on that?
I was not getting sound, but don't sweat it.
Cool.
I know for a fact there are some microphones set on the remote cameras for today, so maybe we'll get some cool sound from those.
Nice.
But you can see the MVAC upper stage engine glowing bright red as it pushes Sentinel-6A onto orbit. Meanwhile, the first stage is drifting back towards Vandenberg to attempt a landing at landing zone 4. Confusingly, the third landing zone in the SpaceX array of landing zones, but don't think about it too hard.
Jack, is that a cloud or is that like an actual like atmospheric cloud on the screen right now?
No, that's exhaust plume.
That's exhaust plume. Okay. I hope the exhaust plume
Yes.
doesn't hide the entry burn.
No, I don't think so, and it's moving fast.
All
We're
right.
fine. I think we're fine.
So coming up on about 1 minute until entry burn, Jack. 1 minute.
Copy you.
All right,
Yeah, I
and
wish
SpaceX confirming that both vehicles are following nominal trajectories, with the second stage continuing to take the Sentinel-6 satellite, Earth observation and ocean monitoring satellite, into its initial parking orbit. We have entry burn coming up in less than a minute on the first stage, and then the landing of the first stage and the cutoff of the second stage will be within 1 second of each other here at 8:18 and 8:19 T plus time. So coming up on some rapid things here in about 30 seconds to the entry burn. Or less than 30 seconds to the entry burn there, Jack.
Copy that. All eyes are on the sky.
All right. We're going to hang out with Jack's camera here so we can see what we get. Everybody keep an eye on the screen.
Oh, come on.
Just got the call that the entry burn has started on the net.
We can see it here. I can't get it on camera. Wow.
You can see it, Jack, but you can't quite get the camera
Yeah.
on it?
Yep, and it's done.
All right. Well, the rocket will get closer to you, and you know where the launch pad is, right? So look
I'm
at
getting
that.
situated on the pad now.
Oh, Chris and Thomas, look at this.
That's a great view. I bet we'll have that feed the whole way down because it is returning to launch site. They've got a good connectivity there. This is a
Yeah.
great view.
The other ones have had good connectivity all the way
Right,
down.
yeah.
Wow.
And what you're going to see now is Falcon 9 actually going transonic the other direction, slowing down back below Mach 1, and Jack will get a nice sonic boom. And look at that.
There it is.
Yeah,
There
wow.
it is. Come on.
All right, stage 1 has dropped below the speed of sound.
Look how fast it's going down. Landing burn, Jack.
Yep.
One Merlin 1D engine powering Falcon 9's descent. Here we go.
See it? See it?
We got it, Jack. We saw it for a second there. There it is. Look at that. That's Jack's feed, y'all.
Landing leg deploy.
And the good news is there's a slight delay.
Gorgeous.
It's landed.
It's landed.
And there's
Oh,
their sonic boom. Very
those are the
nice.
sonic booms.
We got it through Jack's mic.
How
All
cool
right,
is
and
that?
stage 2 did cut off and is in a nominal parking orbit with the Sentinel-6 satellite. So both the Falcon 9 rocket has returned to LZ-4 at Vandenberg Air Force Base, and Sentinel-6 for NASA, ESA, and NOAA is in its preliminary parking orbit and in a coast for about 45 minutes before we expect a 10-second reignition on that second stage to get it into its final orbit. But what a day, Jack. What was that like watching it come back?
I think we might have lost Jack there. You know what's happened is everybody who
Jack's-
took a photo of that started uploading their stuff.
Yeah,
well, that
I'm
too.
actually about to.
Or I was just
I'm
going to
about
say,
to.
Jack, are we speaking to your Force ghost now? Like,
Yeah, I gotta get my stuff uploaded. I don't really have too much good photos, but I have a couple good photos. I'm gonna get them up. But
Nice.
I'm gonna leave the camera running.
All right, copy, Jack. Thank you. Y'all, so you can see how close the LZ is to the actual launch pad. Remember the little stick that's sticking up over the horizon? That's the transporter erector, right? The strong back. That is where the rocket launched from, and then you can just see the top half of the rocket peeking above the hill from on the right-hand side with the little building in between. That's the SpaceX horizontal integration facility out
Actually,
there.
Josh,
Ahead,
what
Jack.
happens if I change lenses on this camera?
On the fly?
Yes.
I mean, the photons get focused slightly differently and bigger. I mean, the photons stay the
I mean,
same size, but
can I change lenses? I'll switch to a 600 so you can see it better.
sure, go ahead. Let's see what happens.
All right, because I'm not using it for photos anymore, so I'll switch over to it. Hang on.
Yeah, let's see what it looks like. Brief anticipated loss of signal here as Jack literally takes the glass off his camera and switches it with different, more better glass. I mean, I could cut to the NASA feed, I guess, but this is not Thomas and Chris G speaking right now. Actually, looks like the guy that played Superman in there. Oh, look, I like this. Ensure a lens is attached.
Oh, we forgot the lens. How do we forget?
We get a feed from Jack that says
NASA
ensure lens is
spaceflight.
attached. Oh,
Oh,
wow.
there you go. Oh, wow.
Okay. We got some little dots on the screen like the OSD is displaying right now, but we are getting that feed from you temporarily, Jack. You may need to restart the feed on the solo.
Okay. Should I hit the play button once?
Yeah, is it showing you numbers right now, or is it saying ready?
It's saying connecting. Because I just
Okay,
hit the play
connecting is
button.
what we want. All right, good. Yeah, so this is a static photo right now. Wow. Okay. So it's changed the output significantly, and now I'm only getting a 480 signal from the camera. This is a 480 60 FPS, but that's only a 480 signal that it's outputting. Jack, however you switch that before, you need to swap that back. And y'all, the official feed has all of the talking heads and stuff. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, it's fantastic out there at Vandenberg, but I'm not using the official feed because that's what we're getting. We're literally just playing around with Jack's camera here, and he was putting the longer lens on it, but having to restart that feed there. And Jack, at any time, if the feed goes down for more than a couple seconds, the solo will actually stop, and then you have to restart the feed from the solo.
Got it. Restarted. Hey, man, it's been a pleasure.
Cool.
Das, do you have the mission control feed ready to pipe in, just if like video wise?
Video wise, no, I only have stand by. I can do it fast.
Because they just have the animation showing stage 2's position. It'll be better than NASA talking
Got
heads
it,
if you
done.
want. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Is it back or am I still down? Sorry.
It is back, but I've got OSDs now, which is fine.
Oh, darn it. Huh. I wonder why that is. Off. Cycling camera. And then I'll recycle the solo. Sorry, I should have just left it alone.
No, it's all good. This is a learning experience. It's the new NSF_Jack live view solo. That's how it's listed in my control interface. So we
Yeah, I
are.
mean we got it. We might as well have tried it out today. This is a good tech check and a good track test for me in
Yeah.
preparation for future launch events of various types.
Yep. And I'm getting that video feed now. Jack, don't sweat the OSDs. Don't sweat the OSDs at all. We can play around with that whenever we get back. I'm going to hop over to this really quickly, but here is the longer lens on Jack's camera. You can see this is that. You said this is the 600 instead of the 300, right, Jack?
Yeah, 600 millimeters. It's a bump of 50%, or what is that? 200%? I don't know. I'm not a mathometer.
A mathometer. So we get a little bit more zoom on the launch pad there. You can see on the left-hand side, that's the launch pad. The center is the SpaceX HIF. That's where they actually work on the rocket before they roll it out and verticate it. And on the right-hand side, just peeking over the top of the hill there, is the landed stage over at LZ. What do we say that was? LZ4, which is actually the third LZ?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe
Jack,
they just named it that because it is at Space Launch Complex 4, so I think they kept the 4 name. At one point, there was going to be 3 LZs at Cape Canaveral because they were going to also land Falcon Heavy center cores there, but they've since opted to always do that on drone ships, at least as far as we know. So they only have 2 over there. Maybe an LZ3 will show up at Cape Canaveral at some point, or maybe one will show
If
up in Vandenberg. Who knows?
if I had to guess, LZ3 is the Starship landing pad within 39A.
Ooh, that's a good
ah,
point. That's a very good point. There is another LZ that doesn't actually have a name yet.
Correct.
Interesting, interesting. Also, oh, they also have to name the one in Boca Chica at some point, although they kind of just call it the landing pad right now.
yeah, the landing pad. You know, that one over there.
It would be very SpaceX to have an inconsistent naming scheme, I suppose.
Yeah, you beat me to it, Thomas. I was going to say SpaceX and numbering. ...
Jack, people in chat are telling you how to operate your camera. Press the display button. That'll fix it. Jeez. Y'all, so Jack was set up to use an external monitor, and the unfortunate thing is that the live view solos don't like all splitters. And so he was trying to split his HDMI signal to an external monitor so he could see it better, so he could track it better, that sort of stuff. Trust me, I know when it's bright outside, it's really difficult to see on the little camera screen
Mhm.
what you're actually pointing the camera at. So you get a bigger, like a 7 or 10-inch external monitor. You can crank the brightness up and stuff like that on it. Put a little hood over it so it's easier to see. But that was not working. The little splitter was not playing nice with the solo. So when Jack did that track and watched that, he actually had to be tracking it on the teeny tiny little camera screen itself. And Jack,
Yeah,
dude, you did a fantastic job, man, for dealing
I
with
was on
that.
my knees. I was actually on my knees at one point, like craning, shielding the screen with one hand.
Yep.
It was a lot. That was a lot, but I'm glad I got something at least.
Yeah, I will get you a link. I've got a list of approved splitters that work, and I've actually got stacks of these little splitters. But there's one brand of splitter that works just fine with the solo, and we can get you. They're like $11 or something like that. We'll get you the
Yeah, it
link to
figures.
that.
Of course, it's the $10, $20 part that
Yep.
throws a kink in the whole setup with multiple thousands and thousands of dollars worth of gear. But of course, that's the way that it goes, and that's what I hate. God, I hate this idiom so much, especially in the context of spaceflight. But this is why you test.
Yep. Well, so Jack, the right thing to do actually is ditch that little external monitor and pipe the video signal into a VR headset.
I mean, yes.
Aha!
You think
No,
I'm
no, Dash.
kidding?
The right thing to do is to set up a robot next to me and
Aha!
have the robot do the track.
There you go. That's a possibility as well. I'm not even kidding about the VR headset though. I was testing that before where we had the P1000 and my monitor was a drone racing headset, right? Like it was a DJI drone racing headset, and you could see, oh my gosh, so clearly because it blocks all the external light. You don't have to worry about craning your neck anywhere as the tripod turns because the rocket moves. You don't have to do anything because the monitor is literally right before your eyes. So I'm not even kidding about using drone racing headsets to actually see your live video in the field. Ah,
I mean, I'm
yes.
completely on board. Sounds like a great idea to me.
Wow.
Do we want to
And
answer some questions or anything that's coming through?
Yeah,
Yeah, we
we've
can.
got a couple. We do have one that asking about the next launch from Vandenberg. This was technically sent before this launch, so I would argue that this was the next launch of Vandenberg, but I'm assuming they're asking about the one after this. I believe the next one is that Delta IV Heavy mission, which is currently slated for maybe end of this year, early next year. Are there any other Vandenberg missions that I'm missing before then?
I don't think so. Not off the top of my head. There might be. Who was it? Firefly might be doing something.
Yeah,
Oh,
Firefly
that's
is next
true.
in December. Yeah.
That's true. I forgot. Firefly's Alpha, the maiden flight of their Alpha rocket, is launching from Vandenberg. So that should be the next one. Of course, that's a maiden flight, so that schedule is extra fluid. Granted, so are Delta IV Heavies these days. So, what those are the two upcoming, but Firefly should be first. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's our understanding based on what um, based on some things that ULA has said that the Delta IV Heavy National Reconnaissance Office flight is still at this time slated to fly after the one they've been trying to launch since August
Yeah.
out of the East Coast, and that one has no planned launch date yet this year. Just a
Right.
sort of nebulous soon it will have a date. So yeah, but in terms of the next SpaceX mission out of Vandenberg, in case that's what the question was also
Mhm.
referring to, that would be the Sarah 1 mission at some point next year.
Okay. Awesome.
But that is after right now Firefly and theoretically the NROL mission on the Delta.
Yes. Small point. I mean, that kind of reminds me the fact that the East Coast launch scene, and everybody for the last 2 months has been like, Scrubtober, Scrubvember, scrub. Oh no, oh no. It's like this just ended like a year and a half of no launches from the West Coast except for ICBM tests.
And this launch
So
went
I'm
perfectly.
I'm
This
ex-
was the first launch attempt for this mission, and it went off smoothly.
Yeah, so I'm extremely happy that this isn't one, this is the drought breaker, and two, there are many more missions coming up in the near future. So, and not just from SpaceX. So I'm a very happy guy. Whenever that next Delta Heavy is from the West Coast, I mean, Slick 6 is a legendary pad. It's absolutely legendary, and it's an honor and a privilege to get to place cameras there. So I'm extremely excited for that when that comes around.
And I'm grabbing some questions here from chat. I still have this. This is the mission control visualization up on screen. Jack, it looks like some bandwidth started getting used to upload some things because I dropped out on that feed we were getting from you. But I think you could go ahead and focus on getting your photos uploaded, and you should just go ahead and shut down this solo, I think, and reserve all
Okay,
that bandwidth for your uploads. Okay.
okay, shut it down.
Yeah. Again, y'all, we actually, because of y'all's support, we actually had a kit of modems for Jack on the way out there, but it did not arrive. Literally, just the time of day he had to leave to drive to Vandenberg before USPS actually delivered it to his house. It was guaranteed delivery by such and such time, and he had to leave before it actually got there. So, fighting as usual the data uplink out there in the field because we go to all these wacky locations. Jack literally up on top of a mountain off-roading to get this so that y'all could see the feed and actually see the rocket on the pad. Remember, that's the trick out there at Vandenberg. Public viewing locations, very difficult to see
Oh,
the rockets on the pad unless you climb a mountain. Jack, go ahead.
this one I actually did not have to off-road for. This one is
Ah,
we were talking earlier about that spot that required the off-roading. It was an hour and a half away. This is actually a much closer spot. It's only about 8 miles away versus the 40 miles of that other one.
so
So
this is
a
the
little bit
Lompoc
less.
local spot, huh?
Yes, yes. So this
Yeah.
was a little bit less of a crazy trek, but those modems, when I do get them, will be absolutely used to drive up to the top of things and take videos from there and send them to people's eyeballs.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, they're at your house. I got the delivery confirmation. They're there in your mailbox or whatever.
Slightly creepy. It's like they're at your house. The,
Slightly
the modems are
creepy.
coming from inside the house.
So let's see here. I do have
You
a
may
whole
you may
stack.
hear some noise from me as I break down and get some photos editing. I apologize.
Gotcha. Let's see here. So Chris and Thomas, y'all want me to toss some questions y'all's way?
Always.
All right, I'll do the super chats really quickly. Arthur Muhammadov says, thanks for the great view. Any opinion on recent Arca Space presentation? Thomas, Arca Space presentation?
We
quick
only talk
words on
about real
that.
rockets here, guys.
Oh, that tells you everything you need to know. Chris, do we still have Chris? I think we.
You
There
do.
he is.
I'm updating our article on site right now.
Ah, okay, good deal. Thank you. So Thomas, giving you all the information you need to know about his opinion on Arca Space's presentation, and then Tech Marine. Tech Marine says would love a spec list or a couple of photos of the filming broadcast setups you guys use, especially the robots. Keep up the awesome work, folks. Tech Marine. At some point, we'll do like a little behind the scenes video or some pictures or something like that.
Well, that would be
Everything
cool.
yeah, it really would be cool. Right now, everything is sort of in flux as we try to figure out what works and what doesn't. But we have a couple different robotic rigs that we've been working on. If you saw Thomas and the booster return out at Port Canaveral the other day, one of those actually worked fantastically for that booster return rig, that remote operated PTZ camera on the special brain unit that allows our remote operator to teleoperate it while the people in the field don't worry about it. It can even look at helicopters. So that was working fantastically. But at some point, I think it would be amazing to do like a behind the scenes video or something like that, just showing how, with y'all's support, we make all this happen. So thank you so much for the $4.99 Curly L. Somebody yell bingo, and we appreciate you. So
Bingo.
bingo. There you go, Jack.
I'm
So
just helping you out there, buddy. I got you.
So some questions real quick, and since Chris is updating the article, I will toss these primarily to you, Thomas.
Sure.
This one is from Larry Busby. And Larry says, could you take a few moments to discuss the potential for using cargo Starship to recover F9 or other upper stages?
Oh, that's an
Uh-huh.
interesting. I'm not sure. I've heard this suggestion before. I'm sure it's been out there. That's a good question. So we have talked about Starship has this obviously has the capability to go out to orbit, rendezvous with something, and then bring it back to Earth. The space shuttle did some similar things, but to recover a spent F. So most Falcon 9 upper stages are deorbited at the end of their mission. There are occasional missions where that doesn't happen. It's very rare. They try to do it as much as possible. But in theory, if there are stages that can't be deorbited at the end of their mission for whatever reason, those are just uncontrolled pieces of debris sitting in Earth orbit, which is not great. Generally speaking, if you have a dead satellite, dead spacecraft, spent rocket stages in orbit, you would like those to be deorbited as quickly as possible, just so to limit the risk of collisions on orbit, which of course would have very impactful, a very big impact. Um, Starship could absolutely have the capability to do that. A Falcon 9 upper stage would definitely fit in the Starship payload bay. As weird as it is to say that, it definitely would. So I guess that is definitely a use for Starship in the future if they would like to do that. I think using Starship to recover any sort of orbital debris, period, regardless whether it's an F9 upper stage, some other upper stages, some dead satellites, I think that's totally something Starship could do. And that would also be sort of a lower risk demo mission even. You can launch an empty Starship, not risking any payload, and if it reaches orbit safely, you could also then recover some things and try to re-enter. At the very if reentry fails for some reason, you've still deorbited that satellite, right, or whatever you were recovering. So yeah, I think that's definitely a potential use. I think that'd be a great way for SpaceX to test some Starship systems. It'd be a great way to take advantage of Starship's launch capability. So yeah, I would love to see that going forward. Unfortunately, I don't think there's been any. SpaceX hasn't really gone into detail with the official plans for many Starship missions, other than we're going to go to the moon and we're going to go to Mars. They haven't gotten into the super details yet because they're still very early in development. But yeah, that would totally be something they could do with Starship. That would be very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't I don't know if anybody saw that. It's like, look at me, I'm NASA TV. Oops. I'm getting a sensor cleaning feed from Jack's solo is the last frame that it ended on. Remember the other broadcast where anyways, whatever. It's a joke. Let's see here. Read a couple more, and I'm starting with the oldest ones. How long until we can afford a PTC robotic Jack Bayer? Jack Bayer there. Why did I say Bayer? Jeez, you'd have to name it differently if it's a robot. Galaxy 9 Synthesis. Like I said, we're working on a couple different rigs and we're sort of dialing in which one works the best. But these robotic rigs will get larger, they'll get longer lenses on them, some maybe computer or AI or computer vision code tracking launches There's all sorts of things that we are working on. So we're working on it. Let's just leave it at that. We're working on it. Here's one's from Anthony McKay saying, NASA spaceflight, could you use a Starlink terminal for remote bandwidth? And Anthony, that is definitely another thing that I will be looking to test out.
Yep.
Getting your hands on a Starlink terminal is the trick right now. But once Starlink gets a little bit more operational, a little bit more out of beta, that is absolutely an option for some of the types of streams you do. Remember, Starlink's not really that portable. It's not a huge satellite dish like you need a truck to carry, but it's also not like you'd put in a backpack. It's a pretty big thing. It has power requirements and that sort of stuff. Like Elon said, about the size of a large pizza. So clearly, I could carry a large pizza around, but you have to carry the large pizza and all of the other camera gear, right? I would definitely be down to take a little Starlink terminal on a little tripod and try to remote do that as a remote feed. I am absolutely down to try that as soon as we can get our hands on a Starlink terminal. So you can be, if there's a way for us to get signal that doesn't cost us $50 a minute, like some of the actual satellite stuff, that is something that we'll be trying out as soon as we can get our hands on it. Here is one, Thomas. Where do the fairings land for a Vandenberg launch?
That is a great question. So normally on the East Coast, you have Go Mystery and Go Mischief, who go downrange. The two ships go downrange and recover the fairings that way. They usually try to catch them in the nets. Occasionally, weather or other technical issues require them to just scoop them out of the water after a splashdown instead. But either way, that's usually how they recover them on the East Coast. On the West Coast, no such ships are there. They only have a single Dragon recovery vessel stationed over there. So they can fit the fairings on that deck. So I believe the plan is to fish them out after a soft splashdown downrange, and put them onto the deck to bring them back to port. There's no catch attempt to be made because they don't have the ships over there, and that's simply because the launch cadence on the West Coast, I guess, does not make it worth it to have another set of fairing ships. Maybe if the West Coast launch cadence picks up, SpaceX will continue buying, having two more fairing recovery vessels. I don't know. But for the meantime, these fairings will just splash down, assuming, of course, parachute deploy and everything goes well. They'll splash down and be recovered by a Dragon recovery ship, actually.
Yeah. So again, those big wacky. I actually was just checking Fleet Cam, but they are not on Fleet Cam real quick. The SpaceX doesn't have any ships like that out on the West Coast, like Thomas was saying. I was seeing if I could have an excuse to cut to Fleet Cam, like this right here. There's no ship like this, but they're not visible right now. So I'd have to check marine traffic and see.
Yeah, I believe they've departed port for the
Yeah.
Starlink mission, I think. So
Yep. So in any event, thank you, Thomas, for that one. I'm going to keep grabbing some questions here. More of a comment, but I'm going to read this one out. Cheryl Dean, message for Jack saying, Jack, love that y'all are trying new things and especially live. Don't apologize for anything. Thanks for sharing with all of us. Cheryl, thank you so much for the kind words there. I know some people, right? I saw some people in chat. They're like, oh my gosh, these people, they talk too much. This is so unprofessional. But you know something? One of the ways that I view what we do is almost always also a STEM outreach, where we're talking like, here's the types of cameras we use, and here's how we make this happen, and here's how the robotic cameras work. And I want people to be inspired. I want people to think like, wow, this is something that I might be able to get involved with. So if it gets somebody involved, not just in the launch coverage or whatever, like, yeah, cool, a SpaceX rocket, I love watching those. If it inspires somebody to go out and try to photograph a launch or track a launch video or work on a robot or something like that, it's almost sort of switch hitting for us here. It's a content multiplier where we're not just covering the launch, we're sharing our excitement about the launch, and we're sharing all of our back-end technical stuff so you can learn about how that stuff works, I guess. So thank you so much.
See,
Go ahead, Jack.
that really means a lot, because this is absolutely the definition of trying new things. I mean, usually for these launches, I have a video camera going and locked off, and I don't bother with that. I just roll it before the launch.
Yep.
And I worry about photos, right? And for this one, honestly, in a lot of ways for me, this felt like my first launch all over again. And it was, because this is my first launch that I've live streamed. And, I did one thing, I did learn a lot. And two, it's hard, it's just straight up hard to do. So that really means a lot. And absolutely, they'll keep getting better and better as as I get more practice. But yeah, I mean, we're out here trying. It's what we can do, and And
Yeah.
that was absolutely tough without the monitor, without being able to sort of see what I was pointing at. I mean, I just tweeted out some of my photos, and I realized as I was editing them that I forgot to zoom in on my photography camera to 600 millimeters as it was coming back
Oh.
down. Because
Oh.
when I lost it, when I lost the booster as it was landing, I zoomed all the way out, to reacquire the image, and then I
Mm-hmm.
punched into about 300 millimeters, but I didn't go all the way to 6, which I hate myself for. But I was trying to not shake the camera and not shake the tripod, and I was just hammering out photos as much as I could, and I could barely see. So it was a lot. All that is to say, I'm not complaining. I'm so happy right now because we just got an amazing launch, and it was beautiful. But yeah, I appreciate the understanding from people in chat, and with your support, we're gonna keep getting better at this. We'll get me, some different gear, and we'll, a different HDMI switcher, and definitely for future launches, I plan on renting or buying other gear. I'm bummed that we could only have 300 millimeters on the video feed,
Yep.
but hopefully it was cool enough, and it was something. This was my very first live stream, and a good thing to underscore is that this is the first West Coast launch in a while, and we'll be getting a bunch more going forward. And this was good practice for all of those.
All
Can
right.
we
And yo,
bring up some of Jack's photos, Das?
that's what I'm working on right now. I've
Yeah.
literally just put that tweet into chat right there. That's Jack's tweet of his still photos that he took from his spot out there. And I am working on bringing those up on the screen as well.
Yeah, that camera was literally, it's like connected with a piece of steel to the other camera. That's to the camera that you guys were watching.
like a coaxial mount camera rig, right?
Yeah, Jay DeShelter, one of our other photographers, you guys may know from West Coast activities. Jay straight up built a piece of steel. He made one for himself and one for me. Is very kind, because I've used various camera plates previously, but a lot of times they're a little bit flimsy or a little bit janky. There's various issues to all the different solutions to mount two cameras to one tripod, and there's good solutions and bad solutions, but the solution I wanted was what Jay had, which was just a large, beefy piece of steel.
And I'm not going to talk for just a second as I grab this. Okay.
Cool.
So
No.
Thomas,
If there's any questions you want to throw at me,
Yeah. We've got a couple super chats actually, so let's do those. A question. I'm Keysify. I think that says Keysify. Thanks for the super chat. Is it possible to set up the robotic camera at the remote camera site? So there's this trick here, and the problem is that the payload launch customers do not like it, and SpaceX does not like it, or whatever launch provider you're covering does not like it if you put a device at the launch pad that is transmitting.
Yes.
Because that can interfere with telemetry links and communication links and all those things. So unfortunately, we cannot do something like that at the pad that transmits live. If we had some remote cameras are pre-programmed to kind of track a rock. I don't know if anyone has done an active tracking from the pad. Sometimes it's sort of video editing magic that kind of makes it look like that.
I mean,
I think it's been
working on it.
Okay, so you can't do it live is the big thing. You can, in theory, set up a remote camera, sort of a robotic camera at the launch site, as long as you don't, you have to go retrieve the footage afterwards and post it later.
You can't have a cellular transmitter ticking off
Right.
EMF out there at the launch pad during the launch. So they actually go around and they scan for things like Wi-Fi networks. They scan for some of the remote cameras that are trying to transmit. And I have heard tell in the past of cameras that have been picked up and taken away because they were actually actively transmitting something. They do not allow that.
Yeah, you beat me to it. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but I did. So.
Yeah, no, it's a known thing. Especially it becomes especially big deal when the NRO gets involved. Usually, I know the most recent Delta IV Heavy launches, our remote cameras don't even get set at the launch pad. They got set at a launch complex nearby just because the NRO was like, nope, you can't put anything at our launch pad. So that's just, and of course that's just stricter security for those kind of things. It's just kind of because you have to remember, obviously the media coverage is all very important, but the primary mission is to actually get a mission safely to orbit and protect whatever the satellite is or whatever. So that always comes first.
So I've got this ready now. We can actually bring up some of Jack's tweets. I'm gonna hop over this way. 1, 2. Yeah, okay, good. I've still got audio on this scene. But this is Jack's Twitter. You can find him at twitter.com/thejackbuyer. And there is a link to his Twitter that I just put in a chat right there. And if you scroll down, here are the photos from today. Launch, land, repeat, he says. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifting NASA's Sentinel-6 satellite into orbit. And here are those pictures straight from Jack's Twitter timeline. So
You
that
can
is
see the transporter erector getting roasted in that image. You can see some fire coming out of some of the propellant
Oh,
lines.
yeah, you're right. Down on the strung back there that's leaned back a little bit. There's like some bright spots, huh, Thomas?
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, not nice, but nice.
it's a flesh wound. They'll fix it.
And look at this one. Wow.
Wow. And you can actually kind of see there. So the Falcon 9, when it's launching, isn't pointed exactly prograde. If you're familiar with Kerbal, that term that comes up a lot,
Hmm.
but it's not pointed the exact direction it's traveling. There's sort of an angle to it, and you can see the exhaust plume is actually angled slightly in relation to the Falcon 9 itself, as the engines are kind of gimbaled a little bit, and the Falcon 9 is kind of flying at a certain angle. It's kind of cool. You can see it in this photo.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like this over on the side. It says, "Great shots, Jack. Awesome photos, Jack." Some of the responses there. I'm gonna have to watch out for those. And there's the landing. So that is Jack's photo on the still camera of the landing. Of course, we saw that live on Jack's feed on a separate camera, but this is the still photo he took of that RTLS coming back down to LZ4.
Yeah, I'm still bummed I didn't zoom in more, but
Oh,
the super zoomed in close shot will be from Michael, who I think
Yeah.
just posted some stuff on Twitter.
Yeah, if you pull up Michael's feed, DOS, we've got even more photos to show, and he's got a nice landing shot too.
all right. I will bring up
Yeah,
some more. Give me just a second to
Michael's
find those.
landing Michael's landing shot is absolutely nuts. Way to go, Michael.
All right.
And
Let
so
me
Michael
bring.
was at a different viewing location, right?
Yeah, so again, the way that it worked out is because of COVID, they had extremely limited media presence on base for this launch. So whereas normally I would just be next to Michael at the press site, just a few miles away, and with visibility to the launch and landing pad, we basically Michael and I flipped a coin, and Michael said heads, and the coin landed on heads. So Michael got to go to the press site, and I got to not.
And
But that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But he got some amazing stuff, and like we were talking about earlier, he was kind enough to place a remote for myself and for Jay. So
And I just got those up on the screen there. I put the link to the I put the link to the tweet in chat there. And this is Michael's next spaceflight. You normally hear him on the broadcast, but he rolled out as a boots on the ground today. This one, the photo of the liftoff from across the little valley there. The launch site is over on one side of the valley on the Air Force Base, and there's a little valley with a public road. There's a park down there. There's a train station over on the ocean side, and then goes up on the Air Force Base on the other side. That's where the press site is. So you're literally looking across this straight up picturesque, beautiful valley. And this was Michael's view of the launch. I've done a couple live streams from this location. And in the future, when we get back hopefully to normal, we will hope to maybe put a robotic camera over here along with whoever accompanies the press corps over to that launch site. So hopefully at some point we'll get a live feed from this angle. And
yeah,
Michael may
I'm
have
looking
some other
forward to
tricks.
that.
Yeah, Michael may have some other tricks up his sleeves. We'll see what else comes out of there. And then here is his landing shot. Look at the landing.
That is
That's a
money.
great
That shot
shot.
is absolutely money. Way to
Look at
go,
the
Michael.
heat. The heat. You
Yeah.
see how it's like not shimmering because it's a still photo, but God, that's crazy. So good.
That's an awesome view. That's probably one of the best spots to view a landing anywhere, because normally when we're at Cape Canaveral and there's a return to launch site, there's a lot of tree lines in the way of our view of the landing pad. That's a great view from the Vandenberg press site.
Absolutely. I'm going to put a link to these in chat as well. Here's the tweet right here. Look, you can see me do it. Copy link to tweet. And then I'm going to go over to the other monitor and I'm going to paste the link to the tweet into chat like that. So do we have anything else we should bring up on the screen here? Do we want to do some super chats? What do y'all want to do?
Yeah, we've got some super chats and some questions that we can keep going. What's the T plus time for the second burn? Because we got to keep an eye out for that as well.
I don't have it handy, but we can find it somewhere.
I'm checking. Hold on. If you want to bring up a super chat or something while I do that, you should do that.
Yeah, I'll run the super chats. Charles W $5 saying all love from Austin. I'm going to assume Austin, Texas there, Charles. Thank you so much for the $5. Get you some Chewies at some point. I haven't had Chewies in a long time. You ever been over to the Hula Hut down on the lake? Stop in and tell them DOS sent you. They'll have no clue what you're talking about because it's been 20 years. Anyways, thanks for the $5 there, Charles. Harry Young. Harry Young's got some euros in there, and it says NSF live streams equal professional semi-professionalism or semi-professional professionalism. Take whatever feels more like a compliment. Also, this covers the splitter and YouTube share. Well, Harry, thank you so much for the 1637 and YouTube share. Nice. And we appreciate that. You know, I take that as a compliment. We want the streams to be fun. We want to help share not only the technicalities of what's going on, but the excitement around it, right? That's one of the things that sometimes official feeds don't always get. And it's like, oh, yes, here is this official commentary with this person standing by for the launch. If I put both of
yeah,
these,
I mean,
go ahead, Jack. Yeah.
I mean, to your point, I mean, I consider myself a reporter, but also I'm a person, and you know, I will strive to be unbiased, but I will also express my enthusiasm. I'm not just going to sit here and be a robot.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say, you know, I have a 14-year-old daughter, and if I put both of these streams up, right? If I put, here is the official broadcast stream covering the historic launch of the whatever, and then you put us saying like, whoa, dude, did you see that? That's so cool. Guess which one she's going to watch, right? And so we want accurate information. It's super important for us that what we're saying is accurate. We're clear when we're speculating or joking or whatever. But making it personable, making it something that people want to watch, making something that gets people excited or enthusiastic about what's going on. That is a massive part of our vibe here. So, Harry Young, thank you so much. Vibe. I even just said the word vibe, really. Harry, thank you so much for the cover of the splitter there, Jack. I'll have to get you that link.
Yeah,
Dan,
I still feel dumb for not asking you first. Hey, dude, what is a known good splitter? I thought in my infinite stupidity, I just thought, oh, it'll be fine. It's a splitter. It's a dumb HDMI signal.
Yep.
What could go wrong? And sure enough, that I should have just asked.
Yeah, there's a ton of different HDMI specifications and encoding formats and that sort of stuff, and they're not all equal. I now run a field monitor that has a pass-through. So instead of carrying an extra splitter, I just have an HDMI output on my field monitor, and that's what goes to the solo.
That's what I really need, is because my monitor, the current monitor I'm using anyways, which is borrowed from Jay. Thanks again to Jay for being consistently awesome. But yeah, the monitor I'm using does not have a pass-through, so I might just skip the splitter and go straight to a proper monitor since I need one anyways.
Yeah, there are some really nice field monitors out there, and they don't break the bank. They're like $100, $150 for something that is perfectly fine for what we're doing here. And then you get into the drone racing headsets, but that's a whole other thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're talking to a guy with a drone. I mean, you get into any of this stuff, and immediately you watch your disposable income go goodbye. I mean, I joke around about money a lot in our member Discord or in our Discord or just in general, but like I literally spend all of my disposable income on doing this. I don't have like vacations or, I mean, this is my job and my life. This is what I do. So yeah, so this is what I spend all of my money on, and it hopefully it brings people some enjoyment and inspires some people they see.
Absolutely. I know a lot of us do that where we have some we're just so excited about stuff. It's like, well, do we really need this other lens? Yeah, why not? All right.
Yes.
Everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. Dan Straight, $10. Thank you so much, saying thanks for the stream today. We appreciate you there, Dan. Mark Stevens coming through with some Australian dollars, saying awesome shots. That's when we were putting those tweets up on the stream. So Mark, thank you so much for that. And then Night Viper 1984 saying, here in Lompoc was a great launch, and I was not too far away from you taking pictures. Kind of feel bad I didn't say hi and tell you great job, guys. So a Lompoc local out there, or somebody who at least made their way to Lompoc for the launch today.
You know what? A little bit of inside baseball again. I don't want to get too like self-congratulatory here, but I had a couple different people come up to me and ask who I was, streaming with or what was going on.
Yep. And
I just said NASASpaceflight, and people were immediately like, oh, cool. Like, I didn't have to explain like, oh, yeah, no, NASA spaceflight, it's a website. No, people just knew who we were. A lot of people did. So
Yeah.
that was cool. I'm glad that our stuff's getting out there. I really appreciate the support from everybody that enables us to do things like this, and I really appreciate the support from all of our members, especially. And
Yep.
on top of that, I just appreciate everybody that's watching right now and is able to tell other people, like, hey, a thing is going to space today. Let's all watch. I mean,
Yep.
you guys saw how many people tuned into Rocket Lab's stream. That was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. The Noam Chomsky thing there.
Yeah, and
Wait.
then Gabe Newell donated like $1 for every viewer or something like that. That was
Yep.
that's the best kind of stuff that happens in this community, is people sharing the excitement with other people.
Did y'all see on the live stream their overlay actually had a Steam style achievement pop up?
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's so legit.
It was too cool. I saw that and I was like, no way. They just put an achievement pop up on the screen because of the launch. It said achievement unlocked or achievement to liftoff or something like that. Here we go.
They
Something.
should have done the ultimate troll and teased Half-Life 3 in some small way and just made the internet explode.
Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Let's see. I don't know if this is going to be visible. Hang on. I actually have this real quick.
While Josh is pulling up, we're about 4 minutes away from the second burn of the upper stage. Up there you go.
That was just too cool. So we're 4 minutes away.
Yeah, we got about 4 minutes, which is why I wasn't interrupting, because we got time. But 4 minutes away from a very brief, looks like about a 10-second burn of the upper stage, and that'll put Sentinel-6A into its deployment orbit. And shortly after that, according to the mission timeline, they'll deploy literally 1 second later. I don't know if that's accurate, but if it is, we'll get payload deploy shortly afterwards.
Excellent. Oh, I mean, I'm reading these out. It's more of a comment than a question, but I'm gonna put it in. Elisar Priel says NASA Spaceflight just wanted to say Jack did an amazing job. His tracking and the official one looked almost identical. That's absolutely true. Did y'all see? I switched between the official track and Jack's track, and it's like, wait a second, one's just more blue.
Yeah.
God, so
I can't wait to go back and watch. I have very little idea of what it looked like, since I was looking at a different camera monitor with different framing, and I didn't have a monitor up for the video to even glance at. So I hope it was good, because I was basing it off of a completely secondary camera that had similar framing but not the same. So hopefully it turned out for everybody, and it definitely won't be that fly by night in the future.
Yeah, it looked absolutely fantastic, Jack. And there were some spots where our ability to have our own feed sort of meant that we didn't have to watch some interesting cuts and stuff like that on the main feed.
Awesome. Good. I'm glad I served a purpose and I was useful. That's all I strive to be.
We do have a replay of the landing DOS linked in our back channel if you want. Chris clipped it from our live stream.
All right, I'm on it. Thank you.
I wish I'd been at 600 millimeters for that, both for the photos, and I wish I had a second 600 millimeter lens for that shot. But I wasn't able to rent one in time. There was a little bit of a whirlwind in the days leading up to this launch. I didn't know if I might need to leave for Boca Chica immediately, and just kind of threw a wrench into my planning. But thankfully, there was no time conflict, and I got to not miss either launch. And here we are. But yeah, in the future, we're going to have a much tighter zoomed in shot for that landing, but hopefully it's cool enough as is at 300 millimeters.
Absolutely. And y'all, I'm going to bring this up, but it's been Twittified, so I am going to put the link directly into chat right there. That's me, K-Space Academy. That's the link that I put into chat. And here is this footage from Jack on the tweet. Full. And if I bring this up, the problem with this is that it's going to be a little bit pixelated because it's Twitter compressed, right? So if you go to that, you can see it directly, or Twitter may not even decide to play it for me here. Yeah, good times. Thanks, Twitter. All right, stand by. I just played it to make sure it was working, and then Twitter didn't want it to work anymore. All right, there we go.
And I am just wrapping up, packing up. I might have to bail soon to meet up with Michael and grab equipment or drop equipment, but I can hang around for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
huge
this?
thank you to Jack and Michael for being out on site today. No, this is like the inverse of how it usually we've got the West Coast people in the studio and the East Coast people are out at the launch site, and today we got to do the inverse. So thank you, Jack and Michael, both of you. I don't know if Michael's listening or not, but Jack, thank you for being out there today, and the camera shots were awesome.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. I'm just so glad the long, horrible West Coast launch drought is finally over.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that was what, like a year and a half, something like that.
Just
Woo!
about, yeah.
So I'm a happy guy at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah, saying a lot of people in chat saying thank you, Jack and Michael. Great work, Jack. Thanks, NSF. Like a lot of people echoing the praise. You guys did a great job. Thank you. Keep up the great work. I'm literally just reading the live chat now. I tell people all the time to watch y'all instead. Nice.
And honestly, you don't even have to say instead. You can just say also.
Watch us.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
there
the
you
cool
go.
thing. Multiple screens, multiple screen gang.
Yeah.
All right. So what is our plan here, Thomas? We've been doing a lot of Q&A. Do we have a timeline for spacecraft step? Were you trying to stay in there for the whole thing?
Well,
Did we
yeah,
answer that earlier?
if we go back to the official stream, the second burn should have actually already occurred, I believe.
I think it did. I haven't. I'm gonna have to troubleshoot this launch loop audio. It's supposed to be coming through, but it's so infrequent, it's hard to test.
Right.
Now, see, I heard it that time. I just heard nominal payload insertion orbit.
Okay, so the second burn has completed. A very brief 10-second burn has occurred, which means the upper stage and the Sentinel-6A satellite are in the proper orbit, just confirmed. So now we're waiting for spacecraft separation.
Gotcha. I'm piping in the mission control audio, but it's so infrequent. I almost need to put like a test ping or something on there so I can activate the test ping and confirm that I'm getting that video, the audio feed from the mission control stream, because I set it up and it all looks like it's good, but I don't have a way of testing because I have to wait for them to actually say something, and they're super shy over on the mission control loop that we get on that YouTube stream. So that will be I'll put like a static sound in there that I can turn on and off, and I can pipe that sound and make sure that feed is working correctly. It doesn't sound like it's working though, because I just heard that. It just wasn't expecting it. So.
Do we have the video from the official feed ready to be able to cut back to? I know they were doing a lot of talking head stuff.
Let's see here. I do have it. I don't know what it looks like right now.
Because they should be able to show payload deployment.
All right, I'm working on that. Let's see. I have so many windows up right now. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 computer monitors around me, and every monitor is dedicated to some stuff, and it's still not enough screen real estate, especially once I turn on the remote presentation, because that takes up a whole monitor. Actually, that takes up 2 monitors with the telestrator. Let's see here. No, I don't need to know about Fallout New Vegas. I'm closing tabs. The fleet cam control interface needs to go away. Where's the official stream? There we go. Okay.
Spacecraft.
There it is.
And do whatever,
So now
whatever
you've
needs to be
got,
done
some
to make sure that
people
they
talking on
are
upper
going to.
stage. You can see some venting occurring near MBEC. They just saw a brief view of the Sentinel satellite, which is still sitting on top of the upper stage. There's the animation that we were showing already, but they should cut to a view of the upper stage when they do payload deployment, which should be very soon. The timeline said it was supposed to already happen, which means that the timeline was actually wrong.
Gotcha.
So we'll stand by for that.
And I've seen a couple shots of the payload up at the front. It looks like I don't know if I missed them. There it is, right there.
There.
Yeah.
So that's a view on top of the upper stage, looking into the kind of the bottom of the satellite, and we'll see that deploy in whenever they're going to do that, because we don't know the actual time.
Yep. And y'all, that was my mistake. Whenever I brought up the NASA Media channel, that audio was working just fine. So you got a very brief
Delayed. It
little
takes
bit
a
of
few
that
seconds.
coming through. That was me accidentally piping that in.
No worries. We do have a super chat question here. Do you feel like the landing burn was smoother than usual, with the engine still going for maybe a second after touchdown? Drone ship landings usually have LOS at that point. The engine does usually continue burning, sort of like during its shutdown phase. Obviously, it's not an instantaneous process of shutting down a rocket engine. So a lot of times, the engine is still sort of firing as the legs touch the ground. Falcon 9 does land using a maneuver called a hover slam, which basically means even at the lowest throttle setting, it still has a thrust to weight ratio greater than 1, meaning it is still accelerating upwards when it lands or decelerating. So that's not too unusual. Like you said, the video during a judgeship landing usually isn't as good as during a return to launch site landing. Return to launch site landings usually are very smooth because they have a lot of fuel margin to work with. It's not a super rough reentry or anything like that. The engine's kind of firing as the rocket hits the ground is pretty normal.
Yeah. And maybe we saw a little bit more of that this time because we had more of a video feed instead of it all going like 4 pixels total on the screen. We were able to get a little bit clearer video there, so it looked. We saw some detail that we normally don't see in those live streams because the drone ship is such a tough environment out there. You know what? Hang on.
Oh, and there we go. We have
There it
payload
is.
preparation confirmed.
So that is Sentinel-6 separating from the Falcon 9 upper stage on its way to its orbit.
That's an awesome view.
Yeah, that is so cool.
That's so beautiful.
The fact. Yeah, it is
I
beautiful.
always love seeing that shot. It's like, goodbye, little space friend. Have fun. And with that, I'm going to disconnect and leave you guys to sign off or do whatever you want to do for the rest of the feed. But I am out of here. That was awesome. Thank you, everybody, for watching along, and thank you for understanding as we work through a couple technical difficulties there. But seriously, looking forward to shooting more launches live and bringing more live feeds from the West Coast. Thanks to y'all's support. Thank you, everybody, so much for the super chats and the memberships and everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, I'm out.
Absolutely. Jack, thank you so much for rolling out today and dealing with all the camera rigs and gear and the modem situation and stuff like that. Let me know when you get those modems. We'll spool up a test and get you all set. So next time we get a live stream from the Jack Cam, can I call it that? Anyways, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, should I say that out loud? I guess it's okay. Jack, we really appreciate you going through all the work to help bring this coverage out here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And if you want to support me directly, you can go to my Patreon. I do have a Patreon. I also sell prints, and I've got a print store on my website. And of course, you can support me by supporting NASA Spaceflight. So there's various ways to do that, however you want to do it. But yeah, I do have a Patreon and I do sell prints. So if you're interested in any of my photos or in getting onto my Patreon, there's various perks and whatnot. So shameless plug.
Absolutely. Y'all, I put Jack's information in the upper right-hand corner there. You can see Jack Byers, his name, NASASpaceflight. Why is that there? Whatever. The Jack Byer is his Twitter handle. And I'll see if I can't get that Patreon up as well, Jack. Put a link into chat. Thank you again so much for rolling out and helping us get that camera feed going. It worked fantastically. Couldn't have asked for anything more. Thank you so much, Jack. All right. And so what is our plan here, Thomas? We've got payload separation. Besides cutting fleet cam and me talking about fleet cam for 15 minutes.
Well, that would fill another bingo space, so maybe you have to do that. But, I don't know, Das. I think we might have another live stream to like start preparing for. I guess there's this show that airs at like 3 o'clock on Saturdays. I don't know if we're gonna do something like that, maybe.
I don't know, Jack. All right, I don't know, Thomas. We are gonna have a lot going on today. Don't we have that coming up at 3 o'clock or something? 5 o'clock. What time is that?
I think we might.
I think we might. Oh, jeez. Sorry. I literally was going to bring up Fleet Cam. I was bringing Fleet Cam online.
I was waiting for it. I assume that's what you were doing.
So I don't push the video on Fleet Cam to too many destinations just because it's not needed on the server most of the time. But I have to click 2 buttons to activate that feed so that I can do this. Like that.
There it is.
Look at that. So we're going to be doing NASA Spaceflight Live later today, y'all. And it's going to be me, Thomas, and who's our third today?
I believe Chris G is joining us today.
G. Yeah, all right. So we'll be talking about...
still working on the article, but...
Yeah, he was updating the article, I think. We'll be talking about a couple different things that have gone on in spaceflight. A lot about Rocket Lab, because Rocket Lab has that stage that came back down for recovery, didn't they?
We're definitely going to have to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what else I'm going to bring up on NASA Spaceflight Live today? Look at this.
What?
I won't explain it. I'll just point the camera at something on Fleet Cam here and let people see if they can guess what it is we're going to point out. Look, this is me. Stand by. All right, there we go. Oh, good. Nice. It's perfect. Right here. We found this yesterday on Fleet Cam.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Julio went out there and actually took some close-up photos, but we are definitely going to have a little chat about that. Anybody see it?
If you see it, you know.
If you see it, you know. Yeah, if you see it, you know what we're talking about. But wait, there's more over here. Check this out. By the way, this is Fleet Cam. The people on the Fleet Cam stream are like, "What is happening? Why is the camera randomly panning around?" There we go. All right, wait, there we go. Right there. All right, cool. So,
Oh, yeah, there it is. Yep.
we caught those yesterday on Fleet Cam, and I posted up some hidden pictures in the Discord channels. And then Julia went out there and took some photos of them as well. So apparently SpaceX is working on things that I'm not talking about. Let me put this back to where it's supposed to be. Processing. Of course, this is the Crew 1 booster that we're viewing there. That is the booster that went out for Crew 1, landed and came all the way back to port. The Leany McLeanerson, right, Thomas?
Is that what we're calling it now?
I don't know.
I saw SpaceX, some SpaceX Starlink engineers were doing a Reddit AMA, I think earlier today,
Yeah.
and they were using an account that said Dishy McDish face.
Oh, no. Dishy McDish face. Anyways, I think that is the end of our stream here, Thomas, isn't it?
I believe so, but we'll be back before too long. If you tune in at the normal time, 3 o'clock Eastern time, we will be back. Myself, Das, and Chris will be back to do an episode of NSF Live to talk about a whole bunch of stuff space in the last week of space news. So feel free to come back and join us for that. But a successful launch for the Sentinel-6 satellite, successful return to action for Vandenberg Air Force Base,
Yep.
and SpaceX will also be preparing for another launch tomorrow, which I'm sure we'll preview during the NSF Live show. So that'll be another live stream coming up. And of course, Boca Chica stuff is always happening. So there'll be a bunch of stuff to talk about. But we hope you'll join us for NSF Live in a little bit.
Absolutely. So here's a plan. This stream here, our live coverage out of Vandenberg, is going to shut down with our commentary, but you can actually go to Fleet Cam and you
That's
can
true.
watch what's going on Fleet Cam. And then at 3 o'clock, you can hop over to NASA Spaceflight Live. So that is a plan to continue to have a NASA Spaceflight live stream up until all the way to the end. Look, there's actually people walking around on the deck of the drone ship right now. Did they drive the robot into the garage? I know I'm supposed to be ending the stream, but whatever. No, the robot's still outside. Yeah, they're working on the deck, but the robot, Octograbber, is actually still outside right now. You can see
Yeah,
its little...
I know they like moved it out because they moved the booster off the deck and onto port, but it's still sitting out there. Octograbber, the hero of the Crew 1 mission, to be honest.
Yeah, it really is. It clamped onto the bottom of that booster and kept it from going overboard. But in any event, you can hop over to Fleet Cam. That's the link that I just put into chat. And you can watch that, what's going on. See some people working on the deck there. And then at 3 o'clock, I'm getting the time right, aren't I, Thomas? It's 3 o'clock, right?
Yes, 3 o'clock
Okay.
Eastern.
Whew, thank goodness. At 3 o'clock Eastern time, we will be back live for our live show, NSF Live. But for now, Thomas, thank you so much for being in the stream with us today. Y'all, Thomas Burkhart, here is his information in the upper right-hand corner. Thank you, Thomas, for helping me out today.
Absolutely, always a pleasure.
All right. On Twitter, you can find him at TGMetsFan98 is Thomas's Twitter account. And then also earlier today, we had Chris Gebhardt in the commentary there answering some questions. I'm not sure if we have Chris on comm still, but I will talk very slowly.
You do. I'm still here.
There we go. I'll try to telegraph that a little bit, Chris. Chris Gebhardt joining us as well for the live commentary. Assistant Managing Editor for NASA Spaceflight. Chris G_NSF on Twitter. Chris, thank you for the help there earlier.
Indeed. Always good to have a new satellite in orbit and a rocket back on the ground to use again.
All righty. Excellent. And then for NASA Spaceflight, I am John Galloway. Just watching on the Twitch stream, you may know me as Das. But we will be signing off our live coverage of the Sentinel mission, which is actually, this is the actual graphic from that, not the Fleet Cam. Doesn't have anything to do with Sentinel. But we will go ahead and shut this down. Hope to see you over on FleetCam, then hope to see you at 3 p.m. Eastern for NASA Space Flight Live. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we will see you nerds later.
Your chamber pressure looks good. Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Flight outside of speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.